Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest episode of Figure Out Friday. So today we are having with us Jaime and Ron. You've
Going
seen
on,
them
guys?
both actually on our previous episodes, but today's episode is going to be a little bit different. We want to actually deep dive into SEO. We want to give you a masterclass of why it's important, what to do, how to do, and just like any other secrets that Jaime can share with us. So I will give it to Jaime to keep going because he's very passionate about this subject. He's been doing this for a very long time. He knows a lot. So yeah, Jaime, like if you can walk us through like how you started, why you started, what you currently do, just give us some introduction on SEO because some people might still be a little bit on the fence with SEO and they might not even understand fully the real benefit that SEO brings to the table.
Sure. Sure. Thanks for having me, guys, and thanks for that intro, Alex. Um, so just to kind of kick things off, like you mentioned here, let's get maybe a little bit of context as to how I got into SEO. I can explain a little bit about my personal methodology, um, and again why it's important. I'm sure if you guys are watching this, you're either a business owner, entrepreneur, or something of the sorts, right? Most likely you're probably in the real estate space. Maybe you're an MLO, but this will be pretty applicable to business owners universally. So what I want to say in that regard is that you've probably heard about SEO at some point if you're a business owner. If you haven't, just to give you a quick overview, search engine optimization is what it stands for. And basically, it's the art slash science of getting your content to show up on search engines like Google. So as close to the first page and as close to the top of the first page
I
as
love
you
it.
possibly can do.
Art and science. I love it. I'm gonna use it. I'm definitely gonna use it.
That's how I like to think about it for sure, because there's definitely a lot of things that are very, very technical when it comes to SEO, right? But a big part of SEO, I would say like the biggest chunk of like what makes it work is actually creating the content and pairing it up with those technical approaches, right? So when you're creating content, it can be a pretty creative process, at least it should be. Um, I like to think, and that's where the two kind of meet in the middle. So the reason this is important, guys, I mean, is because obviously when you're marketing a business, right, which we all should be doing if we're trying to run a successful business, there's you're trying to look for as many channels that are effective as possible that you can put your business onto, so that you can share it with other people, get it in front of the right audience, right, the right eyeballs. So when you're doing that, really there's two main directions or styles of marketing that you can gravitate toward, right? So there's more like media buying, paid advertising, which is a lot of things like Facebook ads, Google ads, if we're talking about digital marketing. But that also includes things like even television advertising or radio, if you're paying for media space, basically. The other side of the coin is organic marketing, where you there's a lot of overlap, right? You might also be creating content for that. You might be creating the right pieces of media, but the way that you share that with your audience is different. So most of the time, you're not paying for media space to showcase that type of content. What you're doing instead is figuring out what pieces of content would be most helpful, most relevant to your specific audience, taking a look at what your competitors are doing or what other content creators are doing, and then doing your due diligence in order to provide more value if possible. At the very minimum, something that's up to par with what's already out there, right? You got to match the standards in terms of quality, and make sure you're sharing insights that maybe you aren't seeing, but that you know would be helpful. Those are the different like actually main focus points that will help you show up on the first page of Google and other search engines, as long as you follow through and stay consistent with those efforts.
Got it. And like you said, when you create, you have insights. Um, what are the most common mistakes people do when it comes to content creation? Because obviously, well, you are master at it and you know what to do. But I do know some people actually take a step at SEO themselves. They go create their own website. The playbook is out there, let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a rocket science. You can kind of focus on it yourself, but obviously, if you don't know what you're doing, you probably are not getting results that you're looking for. So, what are the most common challenges, mistakes that you see when you start working with somebody who already started the progress, but probably couldn't, was not happy with the results? What would you say here?
There's a couple things that come to mind, honestly. And just so that I don't gloss over them as I get deeper into the explanation, I'll just cover them high level and then we can talk about them a little more deeply. But basically, the two main things that are coming to the forefront would be either they haven't been consistent enough for long enough, or they failed to actually do competitor analysis and take a look at what's already out there in terms of content for whatever it is that they wanted to rank for. And those are usually the two main mistakes I see happening. Sometimes people will tell me they're doing SEO, but then I'll ask them what they did for, to help those efforts. And they tell me like, oh, well, when I was building my site, my web designer told me they would do SEO.
Mm-hmm.
And the web designer hasn't touched the website maybe 3-4 months, just to give an example, right? And they really didn't do anything from a content standpoint beyond designing the original website. And even if they did pair it with some SEO efforts, because when you are developing websites, you can do that actually. You can do keyword research, you can do a bit of competitor analysis to look at what other sites are implementing on their specific pages, on their services pages, on their resources section, even on the home page, and add keywords that are relevant but still specific to your audience in a helpful way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, those things will help you show up, and our site SEO that you can do even when you're launching the site. Most of the time, I'm going to be honest, that hasn't been done by the web developer, especially and let's get a little raw here for everybody that's listening. This is especially true when you're hiring a random freelancer, not all the time, but a lot of the times, if you've hired a random freelancer that maybe you didn't have history with before, or that you don't plan on working with for an extended period of time, they know that, you know that, and you're just hiring them to get the website done and move on. There's a lot less of an energy investment from that person.
Well, I think also it's important to note here is uh, we all have our own area of specialties. Like, for example, me writing the content, I don't think it's the best idea. You will need to use a lot of Grammarly to make sure that everything that I put together is correct, you know?
We like Grammarly. It's okay.
But you know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna be a soccer coach or a football coach because I'm gonna get destroyed on the field, you know? I know what I'm good at, and that's what I do. So I
Yeah.
think the same logic applies here. If you're good at web design and all these technical parts, that's awesome. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're a good content writer. And if
Mhm.
you hire a person that can promise you website and content and blog and everything, but that person might not be just qualified. So whenever you're looking for a person who can help you, I think it's very important to also vet who you're going to be working with. And if you will spend hypothetically maybe 20% or 30% less than you would spend with a huge team, like it's money wasted to a certain extent, don't you think?
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was trying to say, but in, without being mean. So you put it very eloquently.
I
Thank
went a
you.
little bit more raw than you did. Okay.
No, thank you for that. And that's really what I'm trying to get any listeners here who maybe have seen the situation in the past to understand. It's that, like, look, as a business owner, I understand you have to stay within a certain budget, especially as you're growing and making adjustments to really move the business forward. Sometimes, especially when you're really early on and like just getting started, that budget isn't the biggest, right? So like you're trying to figure out like where can I save a little bit of cash? Your website probably isn't the best place to try to save $300 or 400 or whatever. You know what I mean? And just like Alex pointed out, like most of us have pretty specific areas of expertise. And I can give you the example of even inside of our own team. Like we have web developers, right? But those web developers don't write the website content. Their job is to make sure that the website functions from a good design perspective. First of all, it's intuitive, right? But their job is also to make sure that the website is just functioning. They can put placeholder ideas for content, but even when they do that, we have a professional content writer review that and then rewrite it with original material. And the reason we do that is because that's what yields the best results. Mm-hmm. To be honest, I mean, go ahead, Alex.
No, I just wanted to say, I mean, the goal here is not to just charge a customer a certain amount of money. The goal here is actually to help the customer. And like we said earlier, yes, there is a chance that you might find a web developer on Upwork who is great with content creation as well, but the chances are slim. Let's start there. And two, like we're trying to help you here. So I think it's important to have that support from like different perspectives, different people with different backgrounds, different expertise. And I also like how you touched on budget. To be honest with you, coming from a finance background, I'm going to tell you one thing. Budget is a very subjective word. It's stretchable. Instead of going out on Friday night with your boys having drinks, save those couple $100 and invest into your proper SEO instead. Budget is a very vague number in my opinion. So whenever I hear an excuse that we don't have a budget for something, you kind of do. You just don't prioritize it enough. There's a good debt and bad debt. Bad debt is, like I said, go out, have drinks, and then the next morning regret because you're hungover. Good debt is investing into something that's going to bring you money back, bring your ROI. But it's also a mindset shift. It's not something that you see right away. So that's what I just wanted to add from budget perspective. Like that's how I feel personally.
Can I add something to the conversation?
Please. Yeah.
First thing I was thinking about is you know me, you guys know me. I love analogies. And so when I'm listening to things, and a lot of times my analogies have to do with me sort of getting a greater grasp on whatever I'm thinking about, right? And you tell me if I'm off with this, but a lot of businesses nowadays, especially in this new age, don't necessarily have a physical address. Your website is your physical address. It's where people go to find you, find out who you are, what you do, and if they can use your service, right? But what if someone gave you an address and the numbers were off or the street was off? You could never find it. You would never be able to find it. It's okay to have an address. You can have an address up there, right? But if the address is wrong, you miss it by an inch, you miss it by a mile. People wouldn't, you could be one block over and they never know that you're there. Right? Am I wrong?
No, so, you're right. I've tried to find a place with the wrong address. It's pretty hard.
It doesn't work. And I mean, the person, unless they're standing outside or you recognize their car because it's in the driveway, they could literally be next door and you not know that they're there.
Yeah.
Right? So let's think about this. You have content on your website that sounds good to you. It makes sense to you. Maybe you think that you're giving some kind of information to lend to your prospective client who you are and what you do, but it doesn't drive Google's analytics to be your physical address. So when people look you up, they can't find you. They find your competitor because your competitors spend a little bit more time understanding that this matters. See what I'm saying? That it does matter. And in the big scheme of things, if you really think about it, it's not that much money. It's something that you need to do. It really matters. You can go to the gym for a year straight. If you don't know what you're doing, 1 year later, you're going to look the same you looked when you went. You have to know the fundamentals matter, right? So that's the way that I was sort of framing up for myself. And if I was trying to explain this to a lay person that said, well, why is this so important? I've been hearing people talk about this forever. Just the mere fact that you're still talking about it years later and it's something that hasn't gone away, it means that it does matter,
Yeah,
right?
that's a great
It's been
point.
around for a long time. I mean, think about it. And there's good and bad. Don't get me wrong. SEO. There's this flimsy SEO, this SEO that just a little bit, but a couple words and that's it. But this just by the sheer fact that SEO has been around for so long, it must matter. If you don't get it, your competitors is going to get it. So it's something that you either need to understand, learn on your own how to do, which we can help you with those sorts of things if you need help you and guide you on the way. We have PDFs and things that we can help you do this, right?
Yeah.
Or it is something that you need to learn to invest into, either or.
Yeah.
Two things to add. Number one, the gym reference is unfair, Ron, because you're the biggest guy in the room.
Oh.
And
Well, I'll tell you this. I've been going to the gym.
More reason to use that. Come on.
I've been going to the gym for 40 years. So I'm the guy that you want to ask. That's the whole point.
that's how we met.
That you want to ask. I've been going for 40 years.
That's how we met. Ron said, sign up for this link and you're going to get my ebook PDF, how to get 20-inch. Jokes aside, one thing I wanted to add here about the physical address, digital address, and all of that stuff. Whatever we're talking here about, your website, your content, your branding, this is your digital asset. Yes, you might not physically be able to touch it like I can touch these headphones, but it's your asset. Like that's literally like what's driving your brand higher. That's literally what bringing clients in the door. That's face of your company. That's your face a lot of the times. So don't neglect that digital presence and like because you can just feel it, but it really is your digital asset. Like even look at your bank account. Do you have your whatever like the amount you have in your bank account? Can you feel it? No, you can't because it's in your bank. It's digital. Like you're probably gonna pay using the card at the store, or you're gonna pay for something using PayPal, whatever it is, right? You don't feel these things anymore. Same with your website. You can feel it, but it's real. It's yours. So you can't just neglect it and just hope for somebody just to recognize you or notice you. Because I think it takes only like 3 seconds for a person to make. It takes 3 seconds for a person to make an impression on your website. That's nothing. 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Like that's it. It's just mind blowing. So I love that you said that, Ron, about like comparison about like this address being physical versus digital, because again, this is just the mindset that people still probably haven't made a shift to.
Can you give us more context on keywords? I mean, everyone understands it to an extent. They've heard it before. And that's where I think the problem comes in. People hear the word catchphrase SEO. They hear the word keyword. And once they hear these catchphrases, they think they got it covered. They think that's enough information to move the needle, right? Can you give us more information in your as an expert, what do you believe and how important those are and how you can derive some of those keywords and link them to a business?
And maybe I'm sorry if I'm asking for a little bit too much, and maybe you can even share a screen and do a quick example of things that you use, because I know there are like multiple things like Google Analytics, Super Suggest. We don't need to like go crazy on it, but maybe like a quick example. So like I'm that type of a person who learns from actions rather than theory. Just that's how I roll. So I'm thinking on behalf of people like me. So maybe you can show an example as well, if it's okay, Jaime.
Yeah, we could tackle both those things for sure. So what I will say is this, and just to add to based on what Ron and Alex just chimed in here, to add to what I was saying earlier too, in regards to like people maybe thinking they've already done some type of effort. And it might be true. Maybe you did. Maybe your web developer did something, right? In regards to like pairing keyword and like, but what I want everyone to understand is that just like Ron just pointed out, hearing those buzzwords doesn't mean that you have an effective strategy in place. Just because you're saying SEO, just because you're saying like keywords, doesn't necessarily mean that you have an effective strategy in place. If you don't understand your strategy, I would say take a step back and talk to whoever's helping you with, or reevaluate the source of information that helped you piece together that strategy. So if you don't understand your SEO strategy, take a step back. Number two is that I want to reinforce and remind you guys about the fact that SEO is an ongoing, consistent type of effort. When you get SEO results, you actually create results that are a bit more, I would say a lot more concrete than even advertising efforts, in the sense of like, you won't need to repeat certain actions to keep that result, right? When you're paying for advertising, even if it's going good, let's say you're getting a lot of leads, you have to keep inputting into the budget so that you can keep getting leads back. When you're doing SEO, it's a little bit different. You want to keep going, okay? But if you're already ranking on the first page of Google for a specific keyword in your industry, once you've done that, like, yes, you can revisit that piece of content and maybe make it a little bit stronger here and there. But really what you should be focusing on is, all right, what's a related keyword phrase that I can target now to also try to get to the first page of Google? Because those results are synergistic. Like, the more content you can get closer to the front of search engines, the easier it will actually be to rank your content for those search engines over time. Okay. So what I really want to hammer home here is that keyword selection is very important. Okay. But it doesn't get you far if you only do, even if you pick the right keywords. Okay. So like, if you pick the right keywords, you implement them into your website. If you're not going to be consistent with your content, it's not going to get you far. The other thing is that my team has been instructed to hit the same keywords 100 times if we have to be honest, because we don't focus on just optimizing for keywords. What we implement the keyword, right? It's important. That's how you will show up on Google over time. But you have to do a customer and audience centered approach first. Mm-hmm. Because if your content isn't helpful at all, even if you do get it ranking, even if you do get it like page 1, page 2, and you start getting clicks, people are a lot less likely to convert if they feel like the resource is hollow or a little less deep than it should be. Okay, so I can my main keyword research tool to go to is usually Keyword Planner. Like, that's my favorite one.
So that's the Google one, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I can definitely share that. But like, once this is just for planning, I want you guys to keep in mind. Like, if you're doing other things, like if you really want to develop a deeper SEO strategy, you also have to track your activities. You should have some form of automated tracking to follow like the positions for the keywords that you're ranking for. And if you're working with an SEO team, typically that's handled for you. But if you're doing it yourself, keep in mind that not only do you want to have a good way to plan the activity, you also want to structure a way so that you can track your results as well over time. And you could do that with Google Analytics, with Google Search Console. Those are free tools that you can implement, but there's also really good paid tools to get that done.
That's actually a very, very good point. And I actually haven't emphasized enough on this before. But yes, I believe there's like some tool, I think it's called UTM or something along the lines, that lets you track where the lead came from. So let's say you have your link to
That's
your
a little different. I know what you're talking about, but that's a little bit different. So UTM,
that's why I don't do SEO.
UTM links you can actually use for both types of campaigns. You can use them for SEO campaigns and plug them into blogs. And basically what it is, just to like simplify it, basically what that means is that you have a unique URL,
yes,
for a specific lead source. So that can be really helpful if let's say you're funneling people into like the same landing page, right? But you're doing it from multiple sources. So let's say we're funneling people into the landing page from a couple of blogs we did, from a video, and Facebook ads, just to give you the example. So we have three ways we're funneling them in. Okay. If you wanted to track like how well each one of those sources is performing individually, you would pair them up with a UTM link, which has tracking information. So when somebody clicks it, it'll tell you as the user they came from this source. So it just allows you to really be a little bit more objective when comparing your data sources. Because you can be like, all right, we got 4 leads from Facebook ads. We got 3 leads from our video. We got 4 leads from these 2 articles we posted with the link. That's where you can track that more effectively. So you can use it in SEO. What I mean by tracking, though, is more about like tracking your keywords on Google itself.
Got it.
So like, let me screen share, and we can use. Let's just pull an example of something here. Do you guys want to do real estate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So like, let's say I was a realtor. You want to give me a location? You want me to pick a location?
Irvine, California.
Irvine?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
That's biased.
Mm-hmm.
Irvine is like this, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
So I was talking on the phone with somebody and they called it Irvin. I'm like, close enough.
Irvine. Tomato, you know?
Exactly.
All right. So look, when we type real estate, Irvine, California, let's see. We have real estate, Irvine, California, Irvine homes for sale in Irvine, California, houses for sale. So a lot of keywords for what do you guys notice the pattern is here?
Homes.
Right.
Wholesale.
Right. So these would be like specific to buyer leads, correct? Because those are usually the people who would search for this.
Yes. A lot of people want to come to Irvine. Huh?
Yeah. Woodbridge, Irvine homes for sale, Irvine realtor. So this person could be either way. They're just looking for a realtor, right? Woodbury, Irvine homes for sale. What you want to do from here, honestly, like let's say we were targeting. Do you guys want to pick one? Do you want me to pick one?
Sorry, just like me, like being analytical. New homes in Irvine, California has medium competition, but homes for sale in Irvine, California is low. So does the word new make a difference in competition?
This is just the competitive level of the advertising campaign. If you were to run a PPC campaign.
Oh, got it.
That's what that means.
Let's do Portola Springs homes for sale. That's Irvine. That's where I live.
Okay, cool. So let's do that. First thing I would do with this keyword, to be completely honest with you guys, is something like this. Just Google it. Okay. The reason for that is, and I'm going to skip these results because these are ads. You can look at them if you'd like, but typically what we're trying to go for here is to see what's ranking organically and then see if we can provide more value than what's already out there. Okay. We can add anything additional. So what I'm seeing here a lot is a lot of listing sites, right? So we see Redfin, Zillow, Realtor.com. You guys, I'm pretty sure, are aware of what's going to be on the other side if I open this up, at least to a degree, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to see a lot of homes that are listed for sale currently on the market. We might be able to explore with some filters, but primarily it's going to be a lot of home information. Okay, so with this example specifically, this is not necessarily, this is a good thing. Okay, and the reason for that is because it really explains to you what Google is prioritizing, what they think is going to be most helpful to show their audience when they type something in like this. Okay, so the other thing that I would encourage you to do is go to related searches here and see if there's any other keywords that stand out. Reason for this is because related searches, Google, again, I always say this, Google's really smart, okay? They're smart in various ways. So the related searches that they're giving you here, they've compiled from searches that the same folks who typed this in also typed, okay? And they're making the list of the most common ones. So like, it's almost more of a concentrated version of this because a lot of these folks have typed in more than one of these keywords, but we want to know which ones. So if we're targeting this, there's 2 things you could do, right? Look at the suggestions here. look at the related searches here. Typically, when we're looking for keywords that are, this is the exception, by the way, because most of the time we will find a section here with questions answered, and that might be on page 2. This does tend to happen a little bit more where there's no questions in the middle of the search when it's buyer specific keywords for real estate. That's a pattern I've definitely noticed. What I would encourage you to do, though, is still don't ignore the related searches. Don't ignore what's coming up here, because you're going to want to sprinkle some of these things in to the piece of content that you're creating. Okay. So once we've kind of established this, when we're looking at what the top results are, top 3 results are literally just homes for sale. So you as an agent should have a portal where you are listing your homes, right? And typically you might even have a subdomain website, maybe from your brokerage, that shows all the available homes in the areas that you serve. So what I would highly, highly encourage you to do in a case like this, if you were trying to rank for this specific keyword, is to not only curate a good piece of content that will maybe give some home buying tips, maybe illustrate the process that you take with your clients to ensure that they can find the best deals on homes available. Go over those things and talk about them and create the piece of content like you would, but also look at what's ranking on Google and don't ignore it. If Zillow's ranking on Google and all they're doing is posting properties, right? And I get it. They're Zillow. They have a lot of traffic. They have a lot of pages, right? But that's why they rank. It's because they have literally people for them that don't work for the company posting listings on their website, which increases their SEO value. So if you can share listings directly to this specific area, right? We're talking about Portola Springs, then what I would encourage you to do is in your article, embed some listings that you have from your brokerage, or even just at the very minimum, link out to a place where people can browse properties that will come back to you. You know, if you're doing it on, even if you're posting on Zillow, just share and share the link that will take them to your listing that will refer you as an agent. You know, I would discourage things like Zillow a little bit more, because as they start browsing to other places, they're going to get paired up with other agents. So that's why I'm saying, like, maybe go gravitate toward your subdomain site that was given to you from your brokerage. If you have a personal website that has listings there too, go ahead and do that. Typically, when we're doing something like this, I will send people to the subdomain brokerage site, because that can be automatically updated with new listings. Okay, so that way the person doesn't have to think about it, right, and manually be updating, because like we don't want to do that either. We want to create a place that creates traction for us, rather than like a headache that we're going to have to update in a couple months or whatever it may be. So is all of that making sense? I know that was like a lot, but
no. I think that's the most helpful part to me. Like if I was about to go and run my own thing, you know. Want to share anything else?
No, I mean, honestly, like look at the patterns of results, guys. This is common. So like that's one thing that's really been helping us with buyer specific keywords. Share some listings. That's what buyers want, right? Like put yourself in the position of the person who's searching for it. That's the biggest piece of advice I could probably give. It's like switch your perspective for a second. If they're typing in buyer keywords, it's because they want to look at houses.
Yeah. Can you share with us your biggest success with SEO? Like I'm pretty sure, like, I would think you have a client that you would use as a case study for SEO.
I mean, look, the primary bulk of the work we've done at this point has been as a team, like with my team, has been in the real estate space. So it's been with real estate agents, investors as well. But I've worked on a lot of accounts personally. Like even before I started my agency, like I was working on SEO accounts. I worked for a big agency in South Florida who actually taught me a lot of my processes and background for organic marketing and SEO.
So what
And
that was that sparked the interest for SEO, passion for SEO?
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that was like my favorite job I've ever had. Um, un
That's
until
that's that's allows
until I
that's
started
allows
my own agency, of course. But that's really what motivated me to start my agency at all. I mean, I had never had a job where I felt that fulfilled. Like, and of course, there were some hard days, like anywhere else that you're putting in work into. It wasn't always just uh, you know, hot like sugar and
yeah.
and spice, sort of call it, right?
Not a
But
party every
it
day.
was pretty deeply satisfying, like almost all of the time. And when I did get concrete results for the clients that I was helping serve, it felt really good. I was like, yeah, like this is what I'm doing. Like this is what I'm working for. And it also felt really good because I understood that a lot of the folks we were working with were small businesses. They were
Mhm.
small business owners. And I'm like, we're actually like making a difference in these people's lives. And like that's something that I had really yearned for in a job for a long time. And I felt like I had touched on it here and there, but it never felt so directly impactful
Mhm.
to make a change in somebody's life, for example. So,
You mind if I
you
drop a
want to say
little
something, Ron?
context?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just so you guys know, the reason why I guess there's a good chance that you guys understand why we brought Jaime. He's an expert. We know SEO. This is our fulfillment partner. This is the guy, and we just want you guys to understand the ins and outs of it. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up was how you were saying, I don't want it to be missed, is how you get your ranking up, but it's something that you have to keep up. It's a continuous process.
Mm.
It's not always pushing and putting time into your SEO, into your keywords, into your content. You have this thing where you're going to be going like this. You get up there and then it's going to slowly go down.
Yeah.
Why? Everyone else is creating content that's pushing them up, and your lack of content is just organically, naturally driving you down because they have new things coming out constantly. So, if you could speak to that a little bit, and then also, like one thing I don't want to be missed as well, how you were saying, yeah, you can get leads from a lot of places. Now, when we fulfill for Facebook ads, it could be 150, 200 leads in a month, but you have to understand that not all those leads are going to be in market leads or the best quality leads. The best quality place to get a lead is off Google, and I'll tell you why. Someone's going to Google and actually searching for what they need in those keywords specifically, and then being driven directly to you. And usually, if someone's going to do a search like that, they're in market and looking for it today. This is something that they're actively thinking about doing in some near future, right? Instead of being on another ad place where you might pay for an ad, and they're scrolling doing something else. If you can explain that difference a little bit of how they're scrolling doing something else, thinking about something else, and they happen to see your ad. There's a difference there, right?
Absolutely. So it boils down to like search intent, right? That's what we call it. Um, on when we're on platforms like Facebook, yeah, there's search options, right? We can look for stuff, but typically we're not going there to look for like marketing services or really any services. I mean, there's Facebook Marketplace at this point now, but that's really just what people sell stuff, like personal items maybe. Um, when we're going to Facebook, we're usually going to like at its simplest point to be entertained. Yeah, we can talk to family, we can talk to friends, but like most people are going to Facebook because they're bored.
Mhm.
So like if you pop up with an ad and it is what they need at the right time, yeah, there's a chance they'll convert over to you. But what Ron is trying to illustrate here, what he is saying basically, is the fact that they didn't go there for that purpose, right? They might respond to you because it might be right place, right time. But if they're on Google and they're actually typing realtor in Irvine, California, they probably need a realtor in Irvine, California. They probably are looking for a level of service. That's
Plus, also keep in mind, if you submit your information to one of the ads on Facebook, hypothetically, like you are 5% ready to buy a house, and you just decided to submit information for an ad that popped up on your Facebook. If you give your information once, what does Facebook do now? They're gonna target all similar ads to you now at a higher rate. So you will be submitting more information. So I think that's another challenge with paid ads is sometimes ads are just getting directed to the people who submit information once and they might not have been in the market. And those people keep submitting their information. So while they're like still watching the cat videos on Facebook, killing their time, we're trying to steal their attention. So it's not as productive as, like you said, someone with the right intentions going on Google and trying to find the answer.
Yeah. And look, guys, I do want to clarify here that we're not saying ads are bad, right? We
I think they
run
work.
ads,
I think
we
they
run
have to be
ads,
better.
we run ads for accounts, we run ads for ourselves, but like at the same time, like we shouldn't be, I would say, fully dependent on any one strategy. And when you pair ads with something like SEO, it's profoundly more effective.
We're going to the moon if we do both.
Yeah, and the reason for that is because now you can take it even a step further. Like what I like to do to pair in terms of like when we're selecting topics for content, for example, is before I always do keyword research. We never skip that step. But a lot of times before I step into the keyword research phase, I'll think about what questions have come up naturally in conversation with clients, with prospects, and even with team members sometimes. You know, if and I would encourage everybody to do that and to look for, especially with prospects, look for the patterns that are coming up because you'll see a pattern of either questions, of something that needs clarification on, and that's what you can select as a topic for your content. And once you have like the topic that you want to write about, do a little bit of keyword research on it and then find the right keyword to pair it up with. But sometimes, like when we start with keyword research, and I've been there, where I'm just like, I'll type the industry, type the location. I'm like, all right, well, still, what do we talk about? I see a lot of these keywords are being searched for. What's the topic? And the best topics are the ones that are going to serve your audience.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I keep going back to that. And if if you really want to do that on a deeper level, then yes, the keywords are important because that's how you'll end up showing up on Google and other places. But the topic is arguably more important.
That actually I actually have a question to that. So topic is important, I agree. But at the same time, there's like a thin line when you're creating content. Is you rather create content for entertainment, which is bringing followers, or you're creating content for your clients, ideal client profile, meaning you're trying to bring clients into the door. So from your experience, how tough, complicated, or challenging is this to have content that can bring you both following and also the clients? So what I'm trying to get here is we all love entertaining videos or entertaining pictures, whatever it is, right? But they don't necessarily bring us business. So how do you manage to combine the two that can bring us clients, but in an entertaining way? So have you thought about it? Have you done anything like that? Just curious.
What do you mean when you say like entertaining
So
videos? Is like
example,
unrelated to business?
kind of, yeah. So for example, I was talking to this bright loan officer a couple of weeks ago, and his name is Jackson. He gave me an idea, not an idea. He literally shared what he wants to do, and his plan was to set up a channel on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, everywhere, and have cooking classes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
you
but
mentioned.
everybody loves food, right? Like I love food, Ron loves food. Like food is our endorphins, right? But at the same time, during those cooking classes, which are going to be maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes, we haven't talked about like the length of the videos, he would be talking to the audience about mortgage tips. So see, like this is where he combines entertainment with educational material for his potential clients. So I thought that was a brilliant idea.
Mhm.
So what are your thoughts on this?
Um, I mean, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for
Okay.
it. Love it.
And what I will say is like I agree with you. That is a good idea in terms of producing content. What we don't want to do is get stale in terms of like only producing one type of content because there's going to be people who are looking for mortgage officer tips, mortgage loan tips that don't want to necessarily watch somebody doing a cooking segment while they're learning. And you kind of have to meet them in the middle. You have to meet your audience in the middle. That will be really, really cool for some folks. While others will be kind of like, this is kind of silly. Like it's wasting time.
They're kind of cheesy, right?
Yeah. And look, I wouldn't say don't do it. I would actually, if I was speaking to that individual, I'd be like, do it. Please go do that. But at the same time, like, I don't necessarily think you have to go that out of your way to be entertaining. Because, like, to me, watching a video that can help me understand how to scale certain processes, either from a sales standpoint or from an operations standpoint, can be pretty entertaining. Even though it's just straight like business in a sense. And I think it's more about your energy levels rather than like what context is being said sometimes. Because like sometimes I've been getting a very similar lesson from one person that I've been getting from another person, but the other person is just so high energy and excited about like what they're talking about and teaching that it makes a big impact on the way it's absorbed, the way it's received in a sense.
That makes total sense, to be honest with you. I mean, I like both ideas. I like strictly business idea. I like the idea of something else. But I do see how some people are in the zone of achieving the goal and they kind of like don't even see anything outside of it. So they don't care about your pizza, pasta, whatever it is. Like
Yeah,
I
and
need the lowest possible mortgage rate, kind of, you know?
yeah, and look, what we're talking about here is just different ways of connecting with your audience, right? So if we're talking about like social media content, which you can implement some SEO into it, or you can repurpose SEO into, you know, your content for social, then yeah, I on my social media, I post stuff completely unrelated to business. I'll post like music or like I'm like somewhere and I'll post some photos and like it doesn't matter. But then sometimes I post like stuff about directly related to business. A lot of times I'll do that in my groups, but sometimes I'll do that in my personal profile.
Well, you are a real person. You have other interests besides running the business.
Yeah,
So that's
but I
dope.
don't do that on my business website, for
Well,
example,
correct.
right? On my blog, it's not like there's just like pictures of me eating out and like you know like it, so it's just a matter of like what platform you're on at the time, I think too, and just what makes sense for that platform. And there's no like law about it, right? Like feel free to experiment and find your own voice in terms of like your content. Like if you want to post pictures of you at a restaurant on your blog, all right, go ahead, but like just tie it together nicely. That's just not my approach. You know what I mean? And again, just to bring it back full circle to your question, Alex, like I think we can be entertaining and educational at the same time. I think when we're actually educating our content on something in a way that will actually teach them something, that can be pretty entertaining.
Got it. That makes sense. Um, I have like I personally have one more question, but maybe Ron, yeah, you want to chime in or add anything?
No, I think we pretty much sort of explained the power of it. And, I want to thank you, Jaime, for just bringing this kind of information because I just think it's so important because, you'd be surprised who doesn't know how powerful this can be. So I really appreciate it. And I don't know. Go ahead, Alex, if you have any question.
Well, I just like that's my favorite, um, one of the favorite things to talk about, vulnerability. So, Jaime, do you have an experience that you could possibly share with us, that was not pleasant? So maybe SEO project that did not go right, and what were your learnings out of it? If you're perfect, just say you're perfect. I'm okay with that.
I mean, I can think of an account that was really frustrating to get results for. And
Absolutely. Like I am sure you fixed the challenges that came up. with that. But I was just wanted to see like what was the experience, what did you learn from it, and what would you say other people not to do?
Honestly, one of the biggest like if we're talking about personally, like one of the biggest things that I've found personally challenging when doing SEO was the other party not fully understanding everything that I was doing or trying to do. And then because of that, it created an air of impatience. So they didn't, necessarily want to, they couldn't wait.
Yeah.
They were edgy. They were in the sense they were just like, what's going on? Like, what are you doing? And even when I showed them what I was working on, they were like, and the reason that happens is it was my fault. Honestly, like the reason that happens is when you fail to set proper expectations for what you're actually presenting them with as a solution. Now that's a type of person where like now, like let's say if I was onboarding them as a client or considering onboarding them as a client, um, I could probably feel that out and weed that out pretty quickly that they're not going to be happy waiting for results or like getting results themselves. Because like usually when I work with a client that's working on their branding, right? Sometimes people don't have the resources to do branding and advertising at the same time, but they
Mhm.
need to get started on something. And usually I don't do like paid advertising like on Facebook or other media stuff unless they're doing content already and organic marketing.
Mhm.
So like if a person wants instant results, right? They're either going to have to do both with me at the same time so that they can get like some leads trickling in, or they're going to have to really commit themselves to doing something like hitting the phones if that's what it's going to take. I'll show you how to create a leads list organically and point you in the right direction to like how you can get busy to get the business that you're saying you want so bad, right? While we help you build out your content assets, while we help you improve your website, while we help you start creating website traffic, and even while we're gearing you up to start running ads. But at the same time, like the person has to be willing to put in the work because if they're really impatient in terms of what the results are, and they're also unwilling to put in the work, and they don't have the budget to support ads plus SEO, it's a pretty bad combination. I know if I onboard that client, it's probably going to be a pretty hectic situation for myself because they're going to have expectations of I should be helping them reel in immediate ROI, even though it's kind of impossible with the plan that we agreed on. And maybe that was because like what they understood was that like, okay, because a lot of times people will tell you exactly what they want, right? So like let's just to keep it simple, let's say they wanted an additional 6 to 10K in revenue a month from deals. Okay,
Mhm.
if that's what they're looking for, like sure, SEO could get them over there over time, but it's probably going to take a long time for SEO alone to do that change.
Yeah.
Now, if they start hitting the phones and they start leveraging some of the content that we're creating for them, they tell people, hey, let me send you this guide, let me send you this article, let me send you the
Yeah.
like a lot faster.
Yeah.
But it takes work, right? It takes time to actually do that. If they don't have a leads list, now they have to go either make a leads list, pay somebody to make a leads list, maybe find a good source of lead information, right? And there's good ways to do that. Like Ron mentioned before, we have guides on a lot of process we do. We have a guide on doing that, how to generate your own leads for free. Get more listings from expired listings.
Mhm. Mhm.
So like, there's always something to do, but you as business owners, what we have to realize is that we're always going to invest one way or another. We're going to invest either money to get things done in the business, or we're going to invest our time to
Yeah.
get things done in the business. So pick which one you can invest and invest because you're going to have to do one or both to get the business rolling.
To be honest with you, I think the answer is both. It's a partnership.
Yeah,
Uh,
I guess my point is before I let you take it on there is not usually not at the same time, especially when we're first getting started.
mhm.
So but yeah, I would agree. You want to eventually get to both.
Well, because how I think about it is I want to achieve this goal A, right? But only I kind of know what the goal is, and only I kind of know like how I see this, you know? So while you can help me with a lot of technical uh, challenges, you know, like you can take this pain away from me, I am still the one who probably have to give you insights on what's going on in the business, what's going on in the industry, what's going on with the area. You know, there's like so many different little things that are also happening that are just like beyond your control. So, for example, you're in Florida, but if you're working with somebody in Minnesota, I mean, you probably will want to have some knowledge of the Minnesota market wherever you focus on, you know? So that's why I see this as a partnership no matter what. It's I just first like I think I cannot fully just hope that you can solve all my problems without me discussing those little things with you. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
Oh, that's always a given. But honestly, like I wouldn't say that's much of a time or energy investment even. It's pretty simple to answer a few questions about your business.
But
Sometimes people
some
make
people
it a
just want to
bigger
be like
deal.
this. But
Yeah, no, look, and I get that. Sometimes people will be like, I paid you, just handle it. But like if you explain it to them even as simply as you just did, which takes maybe 30 seconds, 40 seconds, right? You tell them like, hey, we kind of need this info so that we can best serve you. Most of the time people are like, all right. And it doesn't take them that long to answer a couple questions.
as long as this relationship is actually going that way, you know? So
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, guys, I mean, those are pretty much the thoughts I had in regards to SEO, why it's important, how we can pair it up with a keyword strategy. And again, if anybody wants more resources on anything that we talked about here, or if you have specific questions, like please post them, wherever you're watching them. I think this is going to go in a few different places, but post them in the comments, direct message Alex, Ron, me, anybody who you want to talk to, and we'll help you out. Like,
oh, absolutely. Yeah. The goal of this video was just to introduce more of a how to do, what to do, share something that we don't share in our PDFs because this is obviously conversation. We don't have a script. We just go naturally here, improvising. So that's why we are just trying to show you what to do, how to do, show real us, real emotions. Because when you're reading our PDFs, there's no emotion. But to Jaime's points, we are here to help. So if you have any questions, reach out to me, Ron, Jaime, whoever's t-shirt you like the most today. Obviously it's Jaime's flowers. But no, this is super helpful. I personally gained a lot today. Definitely I know that I'm not going to be doing SEO myself ever. It's it's very complicated. But I just wanted to see if you, Ron, have any last thoughts before we stop for today. You're muted.
Just really want to thank Jaime. You brought the knowledge, man. I really appreciate that, and I think it's going to help a lot of people, which is our goal.
awesome. No, I appreciate you guys for having me on. Thank you for those kind words. And yeah, I mean, that is, I think that's why we all get along here on this call. Our goal is really like, we're trying to help people as much as possible here while also getting what we need to get done professionally. So, help us help you guys. Drop us questions, like drop whatever you need. If you want to see a specific guide on something, like point it out. Like we'll help you.
If we don't have it, we're gonna create it for you.
Yeah. That's how down we are to like help the people out in our ecosystem. So like, yeah, even if you don't see something, point it out. We'll make it for you.
All right.
Well,
All right.
thank you both. I love this conversation, and if you have any questions, let us know. Otherwise, have a good weekend, everybody.
Weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.